I've got the FJ Cruiser in the garage, and you know what that means. It's time to do some modifications. In this video, we're going to be addressing kind of 3 problems or needs, but we're going to be doing it in one modification install, and it's all going to go right here. So what are those 3 issues that we're going to address? Well, number 1 has to do with this little stubby antenna. I actually like listening to the AM and FM radio as I'm cruising, and ever since I broke off the longer antenna there and installed this stubby one, I get no reception. So that's issue number 1. Issue number 2 is, even though I installed some new LED bulbs here for the reverse lights, it's still a little difficult to see at night when backing up. The third and final issue is not really an issue or problem, but it's something that I want. And that is the ability to be able to, Roger, over, 10-4, good buddy, have a CB radio to communicate with some buddies of mine, or if I need some help in the backcountry or what have you. So we're going to get into the video now with this one install addressing these 3 issues. So you may be wondering, how are we going to do all of this? Well, here is everything that we're going to use and maybe a couple more things that are not pictured here. So obviously we're going to have some kind of antenna, so I just got this cheap antenna off of Amazon, and of course everything will be linked down in the description below. Then we have this inverse multiplexer system that's going to convert CB antenna, this guy, to be able to use AM and FM radio as well as for the CB. We got a long piece of coax cable that's going to go from the back of the truck all the way up to the front. We have the CB antenna stud mount little adapter thing, the cabling that's going to be used for here, the AM FM cable, and then the CB cable. We have our mounting bracket that's going to go on the rear hinge of the FJ, and notice how it's got 2 little ports here. One is going to be for the antenna and the other is going to be for this little pod light that we're going to be using with its mounting hardware. And then just an assortment of electrical components, because we are going to be tapping in to some wiring to this rear light. And like I said, all of this is going to be mounted right here utilizing the rear door hinge of the FJ Cruiser. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get inside of the car here, and I'm going to start at the front of the vehicle with the infotainment system and then work my way all the way back to the end. I thought about starting in the back and then working all the way up to the front, but it just seems like I need to be connected here first, and then I can figure things out if things are too short or too long, and I can tidy up all the wiring in the rear. So a few things have to happen here. Number 1, we have to take off this little panel, and by doing that we remove one screw here and 1 screw here, and then this lifts up from the bottom, pops off like that, lift up from the bottom, careful, pops off like that. Now we have a screw here and here. Now this blue trim piece pops off, pull from the top. Disconnect air conditioning. These clips are always a booger. There we go. Then set this aside. Now we need to take a socket and get out these 4 screws, so that way we can take the infotainment system down to be able to access the AM/FM port in the rear. So we have the infotainment system pulled out, and I just took a little bucket and a microfiber. That way when we pull out the infotainment, it's not just dangling by these wires, it's actually resting on this microfiber that's clean-ish. But you can see in the back here, we have our AM/FM coax little import right there. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take our the end of, and it's not coax, I just realized that it's called something else, but we're going to take the end of the AM/FM cord that's going to attach to our little module, and you can see here it says AM/FM, and we're simply just going to plug the cord into that little port. Now, once we have this cord plugged in, we are going to take it and shove it down into the ether behind the dash. And that's when the next part is going to come in after we get all of this tidied up. We need to be able to access that cord underneath this center console. All right, so we have our infotainment system kind of back in here, but I'm leaving off this blue panel that's right there. So that way I can easily tuck down that AM, FM cord to be able to retrieve it from underneath here. And if you hear anything in the background, just the love of my life's doing some stuff. So center console removal is pretty straightforward. You're gonna have to take out the gear shifter knobs. There's also a little, make sure your screw cup is out of the way. There's also a little tab down here that you need to remove from the e-brake or parking brake, and it just pops off pretty easily. Just a little trim piece there. And then once you've done that, you can then take this piece. It's kind of like a center console cover thing, and it just, you saw, just kind of lifts up, and then you kind of just slide it out like this and set that aside. And from here, this is when we need to unscrew some stuff. So we want to remove this whole little center console piece. So there's two little holes right there. I removed the two 10mm bolts there. There was a 10mm bolt there, or screw, and then one there as well. Now that we have this kind of pulled out of the way, we don't really need to remove it completely. We just needed to kind of expose it and move it. And honestly, I probably didn't even need to do that much. Just needed to pop off that, but it just makes it easy when you're finagling and moving some stuff around. So now we're going to take this cord from the infotainment system, the AM/FM cord, and I want to tuck it down and then retrieve it from underneath here. So here's the AM/FM cord put all the way down through to the bottom here. And now what we're going to do is take our little multiplexer system here and connect the AM/FM portion to it, and then get our CB stuff wired. Now, this isn't like the most ideal place for it to go, and there are some holes on the side where you could like attach and mount it and stuff, but we're just going to do our best just to get it kind of in here and tucked away, so that way it's not rattling around. So our multiplexer is down there and hooked up, and I think what I'm going to do is zip tie it to some other little wires that are down here. AM/FM is plugged in. I have the CB wire plugged in as well. I don't have a CB radio yet. That'll be a future purchase. Still doing a little bit more research of that, but I've got it already installed. Whoops. So when the time comes, I can just unfurl this and then find a mounting spot that's suitable for my needs. And now we're going to take our trusty coat hanger, and we've got it electrical taped to the CB wire here. And I'm going to start from right here. I got to take this little panel off. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to fish the wire underneath the floor and hopefully get it to shoot out up here, grab it, and then pull it into this little compartment to connect it to the multiplexer. So wish me luck. All right, so crisis, not really crisis, but a little troubleshooting number one issue. I couldn't quite make it all the way to the center console underneath the floorboard. It'd probably be just easier to just pipe it through there, but I don't want to. So what I did was actually came in through the floorboard right under here, under the air vent that's underneath the seat, and then just popped it out to the side under the trim panel. And now I'm going to take the other end of the cable, after I've already got it onto the clothes hanger wire, and then I'm just going to kind of thread it through the other side of the vent here underneath the floorboard. You can kind of see that there's the blue paint there. And then hopefully that'll get us a closer distance to kind of shoot up, and I can just pick it up from right there. So here we go. Let's see. All right, that was quite the bear, but after poking and prodding, you can see I have one end of the cable that's going out there, and then the other end of the cable coming up right through here. So I just wanted to show you that that's kind of what I had to do there. So now I'm just going to pull the excess of that up until it gets nice and tucked up underneath this floorboard. So now we're just going to take the end of our cable that's running underneath the floorboard, and let's see, what's the best way to go? Probably just, there's like a little lip of where the floorboard comes up here, kind of like the bathtub edge, and we're just going to kind of tuck it along the side there. It would have been more ideal if I could have gone underneath there, but it just wasn't working out. So this was the best method. And then I'm going to kind of come underneath that little strap. So now I have all that excess just dangling, and I'll pull back the slack here in a second. And then we're just going to attach it to our multiplexer system. Boom, locked in. Now I'm going to zip tie this down. I'm going to pull the slack out, put the center console back in, and we're going to make our way over to now running the wire to the rear. So here's our CB cable running right through here. Then I did a little loop around this little clip module. I don't even know what that does. And then went through here and then just kind of threaded it through, attached it to those little clips to the end of the kick panel. And now I'm going to get our coat hanger again and kind of go up here and then just tuck the wire in where I can. And then eventually when we get back behind the seat, oh look, some gummies. When we get back behind the seat, I'm gonna have to thread it with the wire through the little side paneling. So I just got done tucking the wires in. Lord help, this was a little bit more taxing than I thought. So had to get the seat pulled down and then put the backrest up. I've already got it tucked in. I just used a trim tool to kind of tuck it in there after I threaded it through. But here's what I had to do. I had to take off this little screw that was holding this back trim piece in place. And that allowed me to lift up because that's where the cord was coming through. And then I had to peel back the carpet. And then I had to unscrew the two side panels right there to give some enough room to kind of lift this up and out a little bit so that way that big cable could go through. So coming around to the rear, don't worry about what this is. Coming around to the rear, this is where the cable is coming from. We took the jack out already, and now we have our CB cable ready for the next step. So we got the CB wire kind of just tucked away over here, and it's just coming out from underneath where we just had it run there. Now let's kind of transition over to the reverse light portion. So if we look over here, I've taken off the trim panel that hides all of the lighting components and wiring and things like that. I wish FJ cut out a bigger spot so that someone with normal size hands could actually get their hand in there and change things out. But in a previous video, I went ahead and had some extra extended wire lying around. And so I spliced into the reverse light. And then I also attached the black end to the ground. Now, we definitely don't need all of this wire. It's just going to be going from here through this little gasket and up the side to our little mounting bracket that we have here. So I'm going to clip off some of this and just make sure we have enough. And then I'm going to test everything out right here and make sure it works before we actually do the final threading of the wires through the gasket and up to our mounting portion there. So I want to make sure I have enough cable and then some. So I kind of just eyeballed it, and it looks like that's going to be plenty for us, and I can just tuck the excess down underneath there. So I've got the light wired in a little temporary fashion, and now I'm going to go up to the front of the car, turn it on, put it in reverse, and hopefully that light comes on. All right, so crank the car, just turn on, and throw it in reverse. Let's go, we have light. So I did a couple things off camera because my yard guys are here and they're making a whole bunch of noise, but that's okay. So here is the mounting bracket that's going to go and it's going to replace this portion right there on the hinge of the FJ, and I'll show you how we're going to pop that off in a second. Well, I basically just did it, but I went ahead and put the spring for the CB antenna on here just so I could get the alignment right for the reverse light. And it's pretty straightforward for doing both of these. Now, I did have to do a little research, and I don't know if this is right or not, but you know, we'll see trial and error. But this is how the antenna stud is supposed to go in order, and then the ground goes underneath the mount and is sandwiched to the bottom of the antenna stud. So hopefully that will work. So for the next steps, what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to attach the bracket onto the outside on the hinge over there, and then we'll start running our wires down through the side of the door hinge, poke a hole through here, and then we'll get it in. So let's see the next steps. So like I said, this little plastic piece is designed to kind of pop off. And so you just kind of finagle it out from the clip there and then just remove it on the other side. Two hands are probably always better, but boom, real simple. And that's just kind of what it looks like. So we're gonna hang on to that. From here, we're gonna clean this up a little bit, and then I'll show you how the mounting bracket goes on. All right, so hopefully you can see kind of what's going on here. There's no real easy way to do this with holding a camera and kind of getting it, so we're gonna do our best. But it's good to crack the back window here. And the kit came with a little screw that's got a little Allen head in there, and it also came with an Allen wrench and a locking and a locking nut, one of those nylon locking nuts. So the concept is you kind of got to work out here, but what we're going to do is we're going to kind of take this part and loop it around. You can see here's where the hole is that we're going to screw into. So we're going to loop around and notch it in place. And then this fits into the little nook right there. And then there is a tiny, tiny, tiny little piece of the, oh my goodness. That's like impossible to get because there's no way I'm getting my finger in there. I'm probably gonna have to get some pliers and hold it there. One moment, please. Okay, team, so slight issue. When you put the bracket up here, you're supposed to put the screw in through the bracket on this side and then somehow wedge a nut right in there to tighten everything down. Problem is, once you put this piece or this little screw bolt thing through the bracket, there is not enough space on the other end for you to actually thread that little locking nut on. So, solution, I always save nuts and bolts and all the things. So I found a longer bolt that actually fits through both of the holes. And what we're going to have to do, because it is a little too long, I'm going to have to use a washer and then a little spacer that we had lying around. And then we got this little locking nut that we're going to use. So let's see if I can get it all rigged up. Okay, mount going into place. All right, y'all, your boy did it, and it was not without any struggle. So I basically had to take some pliers with one hand and then hold that nut in place perfectly, and then thread the bolt through, and then somehow I was able to hold this and just like a millimeter at a time, just kind of tighten it. And then after that, I got a little baby screwdriver, put it right there, held it down with the pliers, and it is nice and secure now. So the next little booger we ran into is we're trying to thread the wire through here, but we came across this plastic bit that was holding this rubber gasket in place, and wouldn't you know it, the CB dude, the head of it, is too big to fit through this little plastic piece. So I was doing a little investigation and noticed that this little thing pops out like that. So now I can take this wire, I can take my 18-volt wire for the reverse light, and the eventually this little guy this is the ground for the CB. I might wait on him, but I can put all of that back in this little wire holder doohickey. And now pop that guy back in place, and then just feed each of the wires now through the rubber gasket and through the little hole that I made on this side. All right, we got the cables through. Quite the gaping hole through that gasket. I'm gonna, after I finish up everything, I'm gonna go over it with some electrical tape and just make sure that's nice and watertight. But now what we gotta do is we're going to connect the reverse light stuff together, do a little butt connectors and some heat shrink, and then thread all these wires up through this. I think we're gonna go this way with the reverse light, and I might try to go maybe the same way with the coax for the CB, and then our ground is going to come through this way. It's a nice little nook for him. So almost there. All right, there's our wiring, nice and tidy. I took some zip ties and all I had was orange, so I went over them with some black tape just so that way it doesn't stick out like a sore thumb. Put some extra electrical tape on here just to make sure that seal is sealed. Popped it back in, and then of course you're not going to be able to see, but you can see it. So right there is where I attached the ground for the CB, and it's also the ground for the reverse lights that I did in a previous video. Now we just button up the hatch. Cleanup time, which we'll do later. Let's check and see what this thing looks like. Well, huge design flaw here and a problem that kind of a big deal. So I'm guessing I'm gonna have to get a smaller light, one that's a little bit more low profile, or I could flip this one and put it upside down, but golly, it's a huge issue. I'm wondering if I could do a different type of mounting solution with this bracket instead. Maybe all I need is just a little bit of clearance. Maybe I have to remove this whole bracket and just mount it straight to there, but I don't know if that's possible. I'll have to check it out and see. All right, so there's the final look with the antenna in place. What I had to do is I just had to loosen this up and kind of move it out of the way. I didn't quite disconnect it. And I just closed that and then tightened everything back up. I'm gonna have to come up with a different either mechanism for mounting this to this little Amazon Bandi mount, or figure out how to completely remove this mount and just attach it straight to the bulb like if I was mounting the mount to the headlight. I don't know, I'm gonna check it out. But what do you guys think, man? I think, it looks pretty good. The install was an absolute beast, but I think it's going to give us, like I said, some good light when we put it in reverse. And then also we have our big 3-foot antenna here, and it's just a cheapo boy from Amazon, a little pro stick. But I want to go and test some things out. So let's test the AM/FM and see if we actually get better reception. All right, here is our AM/FM test. It is dark outside because I've been fiddling with this thing all day long. It's been making me mad, but you know what? I think I got it figured out. So here we go. Crank her up. Let everything figure itself out and connect. All right, we got a little Aldine going. Before I could not even get this radio station, and I'm just going to click through. Got it. But the fact that we are getting radio stations, that's a little, ooh, yeah. And the fact it's coming up too, we're doing some things. We are doing some things. Before I could not even get any of these stations, and now I'm able to get real country. Oh, real country. I am vibing with that. I am thoroughly pleased. I am thoroughly pleased. Now, let's do a reverse light test and see if it gives us any more brightness. Brake. Reverse. Lord help me. Oh my goodness. I can see the world back there. Wow, that is just impressive. Y'all, look at this. You can't look at this. Too bright for you. But we got some great illumination. Probably need to tilt down that little reverse light right there, but we'll fiddle with that a little bit later. Well guys, this install was not without its perils and struggles, but we overcame it and we got everything working and figured out, except for the window glass is still bumping up against that rear light. So here's what I need from you. I need some help. I need you guys to, one, give me some ideas or some options on how to make this a little bit more low profile. I had these lights already sitting around and kind of wanted to, you know, just use what I had. But if I need to buy something new, I know that they sell low profile, but let me know. I think a floodlight would probably be better than a spotlight. So that's the first thing. And then maybe even a mounting solution to make it to where that glass can clear. The second thing is, y'all give me some ideas about CB radios. Like, I have done very little to no research about it. I played around with one when I was a lot younger on some road trips, but other than that, I'm pretty limited on that knowledge. So just hit me up with maybe some good websites or some places to go, and I'll, you know, kind of think about CB stuff. But all in all, y'all, I think this turned out really cool. It's a really cool addition. If you kind of look back at it, it's fuzzy because I have it in fancy cinematic mode, but I really enjoy how this came out. And if you have any tips for me as it comes to the wiring, what I should have done different, I love hearing you guys' comments. I've learned so much throughout this whole channel and this whole process, so I appreciate you guys for tuning in and hanging out. So thank you once again for watching me rig my ride for my adventure, one mod at a time.